Good evening, dreamers. Welcome back to another journey into the shadows of our modern world. Tonight, we unravel a chilling tale that dives deep into the theme of technology. The innovations we hail as progress and the quiet dangers lurking beneath their sleek surfaces. Every week, we explore a new theme. Every day at 8 p.m. Eastern, we bring you stories that linger in the corners of your mind. And tonight we're diving into a dystopian nightmare where time isn't just money, it's the currency of your soul. I am looking for 7 user-submitted stories for a future theme. If you have any original ideas or stories you'd like to share with me, please don't hesitate to submit yours via email at dreamcreepsubmissions@gmail.com. In this tale, corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, and Tencent serve as the invisible architects of a society teetering on the edge. These giants, though only briefly mentioned, cast long shadows over a world where technology's promise becomes humanity's greatest gamble. Just imagine trading away the minutes of your life, not for survival, but for a fleeting moment of joy, a rare digital treasure. Imagine watching those minutes turn into hours, days, years, all siphoned away by an insatiable machine. It's a future closer than we think, and the cost is far greater than we could have ever imagined. So, sit back, dreamers. Reflect on the screens we stare into, the games that we play, and the time we wager. And as the story unfolds, ask yourself, how much of your life are you willing to gamble away? The first rays of dawn filtered through a cracked window, illuminating a dimly lit room cluttered with empty energy drink cans and glowing screens. Somewhere in the heart of a bustling city, Maya, a single mother, adjusted her webcam and checked her reflection on the monitor. The anime avatar she'd chosen for her streams, a doe-eyed, pastel-haired warrior princess, smiled back at her. Maya's son, a toddler with unkempt hair and a perpetually sticky face, tugged at her sleeves. "Not now, baby," she muttered, her eyes fixed on the shimmering interface of Soulless Strike Symphony. A new banner had dropped, and the featured character, a sleek, ethereal swordswoman named Celestia Requiem, was already trending. Maya hesitated. She had traded 36 hours of her life last week for the chance to pull Celestia. Her body still ached from the toll, her visions blurred at the edges, and her thoughts felt sluggish, like a radio station just slightly out of tune. But the chat wanted content. Her audience wanted to see her pull. "For the stream," she whispered, and tapped the screen. The wheel spun, glinting with impossible colors. Time drained away. She didn't even notice her son crying in the background. Across town, in a windowless basement apartment, Derek, a morbidly obese man in his late 30s, leaned forward in his gaming chair. Sweat dripped down his forehead, pooling on the keyboard. He hadn't left his apartment in weeks. His government benefits barely covered his rent, but Soulless Strike Symphony offered him an escape. Derek had amassed a collection of rare characters, his pride and joy. He was notorious in online forums for his luck, or, as some speculated, his willingness to trade more life than anyone else. Tonight, however, luck was not on his side. Come on, he muttered, his fingers trembling as he initiated another pull. The timer ticked down. 72 hours traded for a tiny chance. A duplicate. His vision darkened, not from the screen, but from the creeping fatigue that clawed at his soul. When his social worker knocked on the door hours later, Derek was incoherent, muttering about needing just one more pull. When she suggested he seek help, something inside him snapped. The news would later describe the scene as disturbing and a tragic consequence of addiction. At a nearby university, Rachel, a sophomore drowning in debt, scrolled through her phone between classes. Tuition was due next week, and her part-time job at the campus library was not enough. She had heard rumors about the underground gambling rings tied to Soulless Strike Symphony. Trade an hour, pull a rare, sell it, make bank, her roommate had said. Rachel was skeptical, but desperation had a way of eroding doubt. She downloaded the app and stared at the screen. The cheerful, colorful interface belied its sinister mechanics. With a deep breath, she agreed to trade an hour of her life. Her first pull was a low-tier character, a major disappointment. The second cost her 2 hours and yielded a rare item. By the end of the night, Rachel had traded 48 hours and earned a small fortune. The money came through an untraceable account, just as promised, but Rachel couldn't shake the nagging feeling of emptiness. Her reflection in the mirror looked thinner, paler. She rubbed her eyes and told herself it was worth it. In the digital halls of Soulless Strike Symphony, a leaderboard displayed the top players. At the very top was an account with an impossible collection of characters and items. No one knew the identity of the player behind the account, but whispers circulated in forums and chat rooms. It's not a person, one user claimed. It's gotta be a whole corporation.
Bullshit,
Another replied.
no company would waste resources on a game account.
But the truth was darker than anyone imagined. Before Soulless Strike Symphony became a global phenomenon, there was simply One Penny Interactive, a middling Chinese gaming company with a reputation for unoriginal mobile games. Their early catalogs consisted of harmless clones of more popular titles, and while profitable, they were far from revolutionary. But the company's founder, Zhao Jian, had a vision, not just to create games, but to control the way people interacted with them, and, by extension, the world around them. Zhao was no ordinary CEO. A former behavioral psychologist with a doctorate in cognitive manipulation, he saw gaming as a laboratory. Games weren't just entertainment, they were tools to study the human mind, to bend it, break it, and rebuild it in service of profit. In 2032, Zhao assembled a team of the world's leading experts in behavioral science, machine learning, and neuroeconomics. He called them the Internal Engagement Division, a shadowy group whose sole purpose was to design games so addictive, so psychologically entrapping, that players wouldn't just spend money, they'd spend themselves. Their first major success was Mystic Siege Online, a gacha-based strategy game that became a cultural juggernaut. It wasn't the gameplay that hooked people, it was the algorithms. The Internal Engagement Division had perfected a system that adapted to each player, identifying their psychological weaknesses and exploiting them with surgical precision. For some, it was the thrill of gambling. For others, it was the promise of social validation, of being envied for their rare characters and high ranks. And for a select few, it was the game's uncanny ability to fill an emotional void they couldn't articulate. By the time Mystic Siege Online reached its peak, One Penny was raking in billions, but Zhao wasn't content. He funneled the profits into a new venture, One Penny Energy, a subsidiary shrouded in secrecy. The breakthrough came in 2035, when a young physicist named Dr. Lian Wei approached One Penny with a radical theory. He claimed to have discovered a new form of energy, one that defied the laws of thermodynamics. Dr. Wei's research suggested that energy could be extracted from the very fabric of human consciousness. His experiments showed that this energy, which he called spiritum, was most potent in places associated with death: graveyards, morgues, hospitals. The scientific community dismissed his findings as pseudoscience, but Zhao saw potential. He poured billions into his research, building clandestine labs in rural China where ethics were a distant concern. What they discovered was both miraculous and horrifying. Spiritum wasn't just real. It was abundant. But harvesting it from the dead was inefficient. The living, as it turned out, were far better conduits. By 2038, One Penny Energy unveiled the Quantum Nexus Reactor, a device capable of generating enough energy to power entire nations. The announcement was met with global acclaim. World leaders praised the reactor as a solution to the energy crisis, a miracle of human ingenuity. However, no one asked where the energy came from. Behind closed doors, Zhao struck deals with two American corporations: Whitestone, a defense contractor with deep ties to the US government, and Brigand Financial, a shadowy investment firm known for its influence over global markets. Together, the three companies formed a pact. Whitestone provided military-grade security and logistical support. Brigand funneled money through offshore accounts, ensuring no paper trail led back to One Penny. And One Penny, well, they provided the product. The launch of Soulless Strike Symphony in 2040 was a calculated move. Zhao understood that games were the perfect Trojan horse. They were voluntary, addictive, and offered plausible deniability. The game's mechanics were revolutionary and sinister. Players could trade minutes of their lives for in-game currency. The transaction was seamless, almost imperceptible. A brief moment of fatigue, a slight headache, a vague sense of emptiness. What no one realized was that those minutes weren't just a metaphor. The game was a conduit, siphoning spiritum from its players and funneling it into One Penny's reactors. The partnership with Whitestone and Brigand ensured that the technology remained hidden. Whistleblowers disappeared, journalists were silenced, and the few scientists who dared to question Spiritum's origins found their careers and lives abruptly cut short. By 2042, Solar Strike Symphony had over 500 million active players worldwide. The game wasn't just a pastime, it was an ecosystem. Entire industries sprang up around it: live streaming, merchandise, secondary markets for rare characters. But at the top of the pyramid was the Whitestone account, the mysterious profile that dominated the leaderboards. What no one outside the inner circle knew was that the account wasn't controlled by a single player. It was a conglomerate of destitute individuals, each trading years of their lives for pennies on the dollar. These employees lived in squalor, their bodies wasting away as they spent every waking moment pulling for rare items. The items were then sold in underground casinos run by Brigand, generating billions in untraceable revenue. And yet, this was only the beginning. Zhao's ambition stretched far beyond gaming. He envisioned a future where Spiritum would power not just cities, but entire economies. By 2045, the world hummed with the unnatural glow of Spiritum-powered cities. Buildings gleamed in pristine light, advertisements shone brighter than the stars, and humanity's progress seemed unstoppable. Yet, beneath the glittering facade, the working class had become spectral, hollowed by the relentless siphoning of their time and souls. Hospitals overflowed with patients suffering from unexplained exhaustion, their organs deteriorating at impossible rates. Entire neighborhoods had become hushed wastelands, their inhabitants too drained to leave their homes. Those still functioning clung to their screens, endlessly tapping away at Solar Strike Symphony for one last pull, one last dopamine hit. The game was no longer a choice. It was survival. The world watched as Zhao Jian, now hailed as the greatest innovator of the century, took the stage in One Penny's annual global broadcast. The event, simulcast across every device capable of displaying an image, was a spectacle of unparalleled grandeur. Zhao stood before an enormous screen bearing the One Penny logo, his tailored suit impeccable, his face radiant with health and vigor. His charisma was undeniable, his every movement exuding confidence and control. Behind him, the screen flickered to life, showing scenes of Spiritum-powered utopias, bustling cities, endless fields of crops, and towering megastructures reaching into the heavens. "Ladies and gentlemen," Zhao began, his voice steady and commanding, "we stand at the apex of human innovation, a world where energy is abundant, where technology elevates us beyond the constraints of biology, and where no one is left behind. He paused, letting the weights of his words settle. But I ask you, he continued, why stop here? Why settle for merely solving the problems of today, when we can create a future where aging, sickness, and weakness are nothing but distant memories? The screen shifted, revealing the sleek white pods of the Eternal Nexus Initiative. Inside, older individuals emerged from the machines, rejuvenated and gleaming with vitality. I give you the next step in human evolution, Xiao said, gesturing to the images. A process that not only restores life, but enhances it. Spiritum is no longer just a source of power. It's the key to immortality. The announcement sent shockwaves across the globe. For the elite, it was a promise of eternal reign. For the poor, it was a death sentence. They understood what it meant. The demand for spiritum would grow exponentially, and they were the only viable source. Already, factories disguised as gaming hubs had sprung up worldwide. Rows of individuals slumped in ergonomic chairs, their faces bathed in the glow of monitors, their time being drained minute by minute. The once blurred line between players and resource was now obliterated. Whitestone and Brigand wasted no time expanding their influence. Brigand's financial empire ensured the Eternal Nexus Initiative was funded without opposition, while Whitestone's security forces silenced dissent before it could take root. Governments, now little more than subsidiaries of the corporations, passed legislations mandating spiritum contributions from all citizens. Of course, the rich always found exemptions. The energy grid thrived, but the people did not. The streets grew quieter, the vibrant chatter of communities replaced by the soft hum of machines and the faint clicks of fingers on screens. As Zhao Jian concluded his speech, the broadcast zoomed in on his face, framed in triumphant lighting. This is not the end, he said with a smile. It's only the beginning. Together, we will rewrite what it means to be human. Together, we will create a world where time is not a limitation, but a resource. The future is ours to shape, and it begins today. The camera panned out, showing the cheering elites in the audience. Their applause reverberated across the pristine hall, a stark contrast to the silence of the millions watching from dimly lit rooms, their bodies too weak to stand, their faces pale and worn. The screen went dark, leaving behind only the faint echo of Zhao's words. Across the world, the working class stared at their devices, understanding they had been drained to the edge of existence, not to build a brighter future for all, but to secure eternal power for the few. And as the light of spiritum-powered cities burned brighter than ever, the question lingered in the dim hearts of the masses. How much more could we give before nothing was left?